The brakes screamed as the old Fiat lurched to a stop inches from the cliff's edge, the Mediterranean Sea churning below like a furious lover denied. Samantha's hands trembled on the wheel, her knuckles white against the cracked leather, but she didn't look away from the drop. Instead, her gaze flicked to me, wild and unblinking, as if the abyss was nothing compared to whatever storm raged inside her. "I think I just fell in love with the fear," she said, her voice a ragged whisper that cut through the engine's dying rumble. And in that instant I knew my quiet life in this sun-baked corner of Spain was over. I'd come to Cadaqués 5 years ago, chasing the ghosts of Hemingway and Dali, or so I told myself. A freelance graphic designer from Seattle, I'd burned out on the grind of client deadlines and rainy winters, trading it all for a stone cottage on the edge of this whitewashed fishing village, where the air smelled of salt and pine, and the siesta stretched like a lazy cat in the afternoon heat. My days blurred into a rhythm of sketching seascapes on my tablet, sipping café con leche at the plaza, and nodding hellos to neighbors who eyed the American newcomer with polite curiosity. That's how I met Sage, my next-door neighbor, a transplant like me but with deeper roots. She'd fled Boston a decade earlier after her divorce, dragging her dreams of a painter's life and her teenage daughter along the Costa Brava. Sage was all sharp edges and softer middles. 42 with silver-streaked blonde hair she wore in a messy bun, paint-splattered overalls that hugged her curves, and eyes like smoked quartz that saw right through your bullshit. We bonded over shared bottles of Rioja on her terracotta patio, trading stories of ex-husbands and the ache of reinvention. She called me her Salvadora, savior, for fixing her wonky internet router that first month. Samantha was the wild card, Sage's only child, a whirlwind of contradictions who burst into my awareness like a summer squall. At 22, she was home from university in Barcelona for the indefinite stretch of what she called her quarter-life sabbatical, a polite way of saying she was lost. Tall and lithe with her mother's cheekbones but her father's unruly chestnut waves, Sam moved through the world like she was half dancing, half dodging invisible blows. She chain-smoked clove cigarettes on the beach at dawn, sketched charcoal nudes in Sage's studio that made her mother blush, and dreamed aloud about hitchhiking to Morocco. But beneath the bravado there was a fragility, a quiet hunger for something solid, something that wouldn't slip away like the tide. It started innocently enough, that sticky July morning when Sage knocked on my door, her face flushed from the climb up the hill. "Alex, por favor," she said, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand. "Sam's hopeless with the car. Her father's old Fiat's gathering dust in the drive, and she needs to learn before she heads back to the city. You're the only one I trust who isn't a maniac behind the wheel." I laughed it off at first, me teaching driving? I'd barely passed my own tests back in high school, white-knuckling the suburbs of Puget Sound. But Sage's plea had that maternal edge, laced with the exhaustion of single parenting from afar. And before I knew it, I'd agreed. "Just don't let her near the cliffs," Sage warned, half-joking, as she thrust the keys into my palm. "She's got my reckless streak." Our first lesson was a disaster wrapped in laughter. We rattled down the narrow lanes toward the port, the Fiat's engine coughing like an old smoker, and Sam gripped the wheel like it was a lifeline. "Shift to second, easy now," I coached from the passenger seat, my foot hovering phantom-like over an imaginary brake. She stalled at the first stop sign, cursing in a mix of English and Catalan that sounded like poetry gone wrong. By the time we looped back, her cheeks were streaked with frustrated tears, but she threw her head back and howled with it, the sound echoing off the pastel facades. "I'm a menace, Alex. A total disaster on wheels." I pulled over near the beach, the waves lapping lazy at the pebbles, and handed her my water bottle. "Nah, you're just figuring out your grip. Like everything else." Our fingers brushed and something electric hummed in the air, gone as quick as it came, chalked up to the heat. Lessons became ritual. Twice a week we'd escape the village's prying eyes, venturing out to the winding roads that hugged the Cap de Creus Peninsula, where the landscape twisted like a lover's secrets. Jagged rocks plunging into foam-capped seas, olive groves silvered by the wind, hidden coves where the world felt private. Sam opened up in fragments, her voice weaving through the gear shifts and hairpin turns. Her father, a Wall Street ghost who'd bailed when she was 12, sending checks but no calls. The pressure of Sage's expectations. Be the artist I couldn't be, Mija. Clashing with Sam's own pull towards something practical, like graphic design. the very field I'd stumbled into. Mom thinks it's selling out, she'd say, eyes on the rear view. But I want to build things that last. Not just dream them. I'd nod, sharing snippets of my own unraveling. The girlfriend who'd left me for a tech bro in Silicon Valley. The panic attacks that chased me across the Atlantic. Spain fixed me, sort of, I admitted one afternoon, as we idled by a vineyard heavy with ripening grapes. Or at least it gave me space to breathe. The shift happened subtly, like the sun dipping behind the Pyrenees. A lingering glance in the mirror. Her hand on my knee when she nailed a perfect parallel park in the empty lot by the lighthouse. Laughter that stretched too long. Silences that deepened into comfort. I told myself it was mentor stuff, big sister vibes. After all, I was 15 years her senior, scarred by enough heartbreaks to know better. But Sam? She saw through facades like her mother, with that same quartz-eyed clarity. One evening, after a grueling session conquering the mountain pass to Roses, we stopped at a roadside taberna for pitchers of sangria and plates of patatas bravas. The sky bruised purple, lanterns flickering to life, and she leaned across the scarred wooden table, her sundress slipping off one shoulder. You know why I wanted you to teach me, Alex? Not just the car. Her voice was low, threaded with that defiance I'd glimpsed on the cliff. I froze, fork midway to my mouth, the air thick with cumin and unspoken wants. Because you look at me like I'm worth the risk. That night, back in my cottage, I paced the terracotta tiles, the sea's murmur mocking my turmoil. Sage texted a heart emoji, oblivious. Thanks for being her anchor. Anchor. What a joke. I poured a glass of Tinto and scrolled through old photos, me and my ex at Pike Place grinning like fools. Love had always been a detour for me. A scenic route with no map. But Sam. She was the road itself, curving wild and inevitable. I didn't sleep replaying her words, the way her laugh lit the dashboard like fireflies. The next lesson dawned crisp, the Tramontana wind whipping whitecaps across the bay. We drove and charged quiet, the Fiat's radio humming Joan Manuel Serrat ballads about lost loves and salty coasts. Halfway to the lighthouse, she pulled over abruptly, tires crunching gravel. Alex, she turned, hazel eyes fierce, and before I could brace, her lips were on mine. Soft, tentative, tasting of lip balm and sea salt. The world narrowed to that point of contact. The heat of her breath, the faint tremble in her frame. I pulled back first, heart hammering like the waves below. Sam, we can't. Your mom. And me, I'm old enough to know this ends in wreckage. But she cupped my face, thumb tracing my jaw. Mom's not you. And I'm not a kid anymore. Teach me this too. We didn't drive after that. Instead, we talked haltingly at first, then in floods. About the crushes she'd buried in Barcelona dorms, the girls who'd ghosted her for normalcy. My own fumbling coming out in a conservative Seattle suburb. The parade of almost relationships that fizzled under scrutiny. The kisses came easier, stolen in coves where the rocks shielded us from hikers. Her head on my shoulder as we watched freighters dot the horizon. It felt like a secret language, ours alone. Her fingers lacing through mine on the gear shift, my hand brushing her thigh when she shifted gears. Sage noticed nothing, too wrapped in a gallery show prep. Her studio a chaos of canvases depicting fractured families in ochre and indigo. But secrets in a village like Kadax? They fester like olives left too long in the brine. It was mid-August, the tourists thick as flies at the Festa Major, when the first crack appeared. We'd snuck away to a secluded beach near Port de la Selva. The Fiat hidden under pines, towels spread on the pebbled shore. Sam traced patterns in the sand, waves, hearts, our initials intertwined, while I sketched her profile on my phone, the light gilding her lashes like gold leaf. Promise me we'll tell her soon, she murmured, head on my lap. I hate hiding. I kissed her forehead, murmuring assent, but dread coiled in my gut. Sage had been my rock, the friend who'd pulled me from isolation with her fierce, unapologetic warmth. Betraying that trust? It gnawed like the wind off the Gulf. We returned flushed, sandy, to find Sage on my doorstep, a bottle of cava in hand. Surprise. Show's a go, let's celebrate. Her smile was luminous, but her eyes sharpened as we tumbled out, Sam's hand lingering a beat too long on my arm. Dinner stretched late on her patio. Grilled sardines, aioli-dipped bread, stories of Boston blizzards and Barcelona nights. Sam was electric, her foot nudging mine under the table, a private Morse code. Sage raised her glass. To family, the ones we choose. The words landed heavy and I forced a laugh, but guilt soured the bubbles on my tongue. That night, as fireworks cracked over the bay for the Saints' Day, Sam slipped into my cottage through the garden gate. We made love, not frantic but slow, exploratory, like mapping a new coast. Her sighs against my neck, my fingers in her hair, the sheets tangling like kelp. Afterward, wrapped in moonlight, she whispered dreams of us driving south together, to Gibraltar and beyond, leaving the village's whispers behind. I held her close, inhaling her scent of salt and jasmine, and for the first time in years, believed in detours that led home. But dawn brought the reckoning. A frantic knock shattered the quiet, sage, wild-eyed phone clutched like a talisman. "Alex, it's Sam, she's gone." Left a note saying she's heading to Barcelona early, but, God, I found this. She thrust a crumpled sketchpad page at me. Our initials in the sand, hearts blooming like anemones. My stomach plummeted. Betrayal sharp as a switchblade, but whose? Sam's fear had won, it seemed, running before the confrontation. Or mine for letting it build. "What have you done?" Sage's voice cracked, not accusing but broken, and in her eyes, I saw the mirror of my own fractures. The drive to find her began then, not in the Fiat, but in the unraveling of everything I'd tried to hold steady. The road to Barcelona unspooled like a fever dream, the Fiat's engine whining in protest as we pushed it north along the AB7. Sage white-knuckling the wheel while I scanned my phone for any trace of Sam. Dawn bled into morning, the Pyrenees hulking shadows to our left, the sea a glittering tease to the right. Sage hadn't spoken much since we'd piled in. Her jaw set like the cliffs we'd skirted so often, but the air in the car crackled with the unsaid. I'd confessed everything in halting bursts back at the cottage, the lessons turning to touches, the beachside promises, the way Sam's laugh had cracked open parts of me I'd boarded up tight. "It wasn't planned," I choked out, tears hot on my cheeks. We. Sage had just nodded, mechanical, grabbing her keys. "We find her first. Then we talk." But the sketchpad page lay between us on the seat like evidence in a trial, its innocent lines now damning. My mind replayed fragments. Sam's defiant grin after mastering reverse on that first hill. The way she'd lean into turns like embracing a storm. How had I missed the undercurrent of her panic? University had been her escape hatch before. Dorm parties masking the loneliness of being the queer kid in a town too small for labels. Sage had always been progressive on paper, flying rainbow flags at pride events back in Boston, but motherhood? That was a different beast, fierce and territorial. I'd seen the photos on her mantle. Sam as a gap-toothed girl in overalls, Sage cradling her like a talisman against the world's cruelties. No wonder the note had gutted her. "Mom, I need space to breathe. Don't follow. Love your wild one." It reeked of my influence, the very freedom I'd preached over sangria pitchers. We hit Girona by noon, the medieval streets a labyrinth of Gothic arches and cafe awnings, but no sign of Sam. I called her phone straight to voicemail, her bubbly greeting a knife twist. "Hey, it's Sam. Leave a message or just show up with paella." Sage pulled into a plaza shaded by plane trees, killing the engine with a finality that echoed. "She'd go to that dive bar near the university," she said finally, voice raw. "The one with the bad karaoke. We used to pick her up from their freshman year." I nodded, though doubt gnawed. Sam had outgrown that scene, trading neon for the quiet coves we'd claimed as ours. Still, we drove on, the toll booths blurring into monotony, my text to her piling up unread. "Please talk to me. We're coming." No reply. The betrayal stung double. Hers for bolting without a word. Mine for igniting the fuse. Barcelona swallowed us whole, its grid of example blocks pulsing with life. Street performers juggling fire outside La Sagrada Familia. The scent of churros frying in the Gothic quarter. We parked haphazardly near the Placa de Catalunya, the Fiat dwarfed by tour buses, and plunged into the fray. Sage led, her stride purposeful, paint-flecked sneakers slapping pavement, while I trailed, scanning faces in the crowd. Tourists with selfie sticks, locals nursing cortados. The bar was a hole in the wall called El Garrat, wedged between a falafel joint and a vintage shop, its door propped open to spill reggaeton into the alley. Inside it was dim and sticky, posters of flamenco dancers peeling from the walls, a jukebox crooning old Surat tunes ironically. She wasn't there. A bartender with a sleeve of tattoos shook his head at Sage's description. "Chica con pelo angelato, ojos avellana?" Nah, not tonight. We slumped at a corner table, ordering anchors of Estrella and plates of gambas al ajillo that neither of us touched. The silence stretched, brittle as the shrimp shells. How long, Alex? Sage asked at last, her fork stabbing a prawn like it owed her answers. The driving. When did it turn? I swallowed hard, the garlic burning my throat. A month, maybe. It was gradual. She kissed me first, Sage. I tried to stop it. Lies, half-truths I'd kissed back, leaned in, let the current pull us under. Her laugh was bitter, echoing the bar's low hum. You think that's the point? She's my baby. And you. Your family. The word landed like a slap. Familial betrayal cutting deeper than any lover's. I'd always envied their bond, that effortless weave of mother-daughter, artist-apprentice. Now I'd frayed it. We drove back in the gloaming, the city lights fading to stars over the motorway. Sage's hand shook on the wheel, not from fatigue but fury held in check. I should have seen it, she muttered. The way she lit up after lessons. The sketches she hid. Guilt twisted in me like a riptide. Had I preyed on her vulnerability? The mentor crossing into forbidden waters? No, that was the easy out. Sam was no victim. She'd chosen me with eyes wide open. But the note? That was fear, pure and primal, the kind that sends you running from the ones you love most. Back in Kadax, the village slumbered under a crescent moon, its boats bobbing gentle in the harbor. My cottage felt hollow, the bed still rumpled from our last night, jasmine wilting on the sill. Sage lingered at the gate, her silhouette silvered by street lamps. Stay away from her things, she said softly, not unkindly. Give her space. Give us space. I nodded, throat tight, and watched her climb the path to her house, the door clicking shut like a period at the end of a sentence. Days blurred into a haze of waiting. I threw myself into work, mock-ups for a Seattle startup, emails answered in clipped efficiency, but my sketches veered personal. Sam's profile against seafoam, our hands intertwined on the Fiat's dash. Sage avoided me, her studio light burning late, shadows of easels dancing on the curtains. Whispers rippled through the plaza, La Americana y la hija de Sage. But I kept my head down, walking the cliffs alone, the wind scouring my thoughts clean. On the fifth night, a pebble tapped my window. I bolted up, heart slamming, to find Sam in the garden, backpack slung low, face streaked with road dust and defiance. I couldn't stay away, she said, slipping inside like smoke. We collided in the hallway, her arms fierce around my waist, mouth seeking mine with desperate hunger. But it was different now, edged with apology, the taste of regret. I'm sorry for running. Mom called 100 times. I panicked. She pulled back, eyes searching mine. What now? I cupped her face, thumbing away a tear. We tell her. Together. No more hiding. She nodded, fierce but doubt flickered, the same that had sent her fleeing. The confrontation came at dawn, the three of us on Sage's patio as the first light gilded the bay. Sam stood between us, hand in mine, her voice steady. Mom, it's real. Alex makes me feel seen. Sage's face crumpled, not in rage but sorrow. A mother's grief for the child slipping her grasp. You could have talked to me, she whispered, voice fracturing. I'm not the enemy. Words tumbled then, accusations and confessions. My betrayal of trust, Sam's fear of rejection, Sage's own buried pains from a youth spent denying her bisexuality for respectability. The air thickened with it, tears salting the air like sea spray. But as the sun crested, something shifted. Sage reached out, tentative, her hand covering ours. I lost her father to secrets. I won't lose you to them. It wasn't absolution, not yet. Just a bridge fragile as the morning mist. Sam exhaled, a sob laugh, and pulled us into a huddle, the three of us tangled in that raw human knot. Love, it turned out, wasn't a detour but a reckoning, demanding we face the drops together. Yet peace was fleeting. That afternoon, as we mended fences over coffee, black for Sage, milky for Sam, mine iced with lemon, a shadow fell across the table. A village elder, Dona Maria, with her rosary beads and sharp tongue, leaned in. Cuidado, Sage. The tongue's wag. Your girl's reputation. The words hung venomous. Sam stiffened, but Sage's eyes flashed. Let them. We're done whispering. Still, the seed was planted. Society's slow poison seeping into cracks. Weeks passed in fragile normalcy. Lessons resumed, but now with Sage's wry commentary from the back seat, her sketches capturing our progress. The Fiat conquering passes, us three silhouetted against sunsets. Sam and I stole moments, a brush of lips in the vineyard. Nights where her head on my chest felt like home. But the betrayal lingered, a ghost in the machine. One evening, rifling through my desk for a charger, I found it. A letter tucked in Sam's old sketchpad, addressed to her father. Dad, if you read this, know I get it now, loving who you love, even when it scares you. Wish you'd fought for us. Unsigned but dated a week before she ran. My chest ached. She'd been unraveling longer than I'd known. Our romance a bandage on deeper wounds. The climax brewed on All Saints' Day. The village draped in marigolds and candles for the dead. We'd planned a quiet drive to Figueres. Dali's Theater Museum, a neutral ground for healing. But as we loaded the Fiat, Sage's phone buzzed. A gallery contact from Barcelona. They want my series. The Fractured Families. Her voice trembled, pride warring with vulnerability. Sam hugged her tight. It's perfect, Mom. Show them the breaks and the mends. The road wound inland, cork oaks shedding their bark like old skins, the air crisp with autumn's bite. We laughed over bad puns, Sage recounting a disastrous date with a French sculptor. He quoted Sartre over tapas, I quoted the bill. Sam rolled her eyes, her hand warm in mine on the console. For a moment it felt whole. Then the curve came sharp. A truck lumbering blind from a side lane, horn blaring like Judgment Day. Sam swerved, tires shrieking, the Fiat fishtailing toward the guardrail. Time fractured. Sage's gasp, my arm shooting out instinctively. Sam's face pale but focused as she corrected, pumping brakes with the precision I'd drilled into her. We skidded to a halt, inches from the drop, the same cliffs that had hooked us months ago now mocking our fragility. Silence crashed in, broken only by our ragged breaths. Sam turned, eyes wide, not with fear but triumph. I did it. We spilled out, legs jelly, collapsing against the hood in a heap of hugs and half-sobs. Sage kissed her daughter's forehead. My brave girl. Then to me, our brave girl. The betrayal? It dissolved there in the adrenaline's wake, replaced by something fiercer. Kinship forged in near miss. But Sam wasn't done. As dusk fell over the museum's surreal spires, melting clocks and elephantine legs, she pulled me aside in the garden, the air heavy with boxwood and secrets. There's more, she said, voice low. That letter? I sent it. And he replied. She handed me her phone, a screenshot glowing. Sam, I've been a coward. But seeing your strength. Maybe it's time I try. Proud of you, kid. Love, Dad. Tears pricked. Her unexpected act, reaching out, not running, had cracked open a door long shut. We drove home under stars, the Fiat humming content, stories flowing like wine. Betrayal had been the storm, but this? This was the calm after, humanistic in its mess. Forgiveness not perfect but pursued. Love, we'd learned, wasn't possession but release, the drive continuing, curves and all. Winter crept in soft on the Costa Brava, the Tramontana yielding to gentler siroccos that carried hints of North African spice. Cadax hunkered down, its summer bustle traded for hearth fires and mulled wine at the tabernas, the sea a slate-gray mirror reflecting our shifting skies. The Fiat sat garaged now, lessons complete, but its lessons lingered. The trust rebuilt in fits and starts, the family weed stitched from frayed threads. Sage's gallery show opened in Barcelona that November. A triumph of indigo fractures mending into gold, critics raved about the raw humanity, oblivious to the autobiography bleeding through the oils. Sam attended, radiant in a velvet dress that hugged her like a promise, her arm looped through mine as we mingled with the art crowd. Sage caught our eye across the room, raising a glass with a wink that said, we're okay. Not perfect but progressing. I threw myself into the rhythm too. A new client gig designing apps for ecotourism startups, my sketches evolving to capture the peninsula's wild beauty. Hidden cala with turquoise shallows, wind-sculpted junipers clawing at the cliffs. Sam dove back into her own path, enrolling in online courses for digital illustration, her tablet alive with concepts that blended her mother's abstraction with my clean lines. Evenings, we'd collaborate on the patio, feet tangled under the table, Sage joining with her sketchbook, the three of us a tableau of quiet creation. It felt revolutionary, this polyphonic harmony, lesbian love not in isolation, but woven into the broader tapestry of blood and choice. Yet undercurrents pulled, subtle as undertows. Donna Maria's warnings had sprouted echoes. Sidelong glances at the market, a baker's hesitant smile when Sam and I shared a counterstool. Spain, for all its progress, still cradled Catholic shadows, especially in villages where family names carried centuries. Sage shielded us fiercely, snapping at gossips in Catalan barbs that left them red-faced. But I saw the toll. New lines etching her forehead, nights she'd pace her studio till the candles guttered. Sam felt it too, her defiance tempered by doubt. "What if we scare her away?" she'd whisper post-love, her body curled against mine, the cottage's walls thin as whispers. I'd trace her spine, murmuring, "Love doesn't scare the strong ones off." But privately I wondered, had my presence tipped the scales, turning Sage's haven into a battleground? The unexpected came on a December eve, the air crisp with pine from the Christmas markets in Figueres. We'd driven there for lights and langostinos, the Fiat festooned with tinsel Sam had insisted on, its dashboard a glitter of holiday cheer. Laughter filled the car. Sage recounting a botched attempt at Turin, sticky nougat exploding in her kitchen like a Pollock. But as we navigated the market's throng, past stalls of marzipan Santas and woven nativity scenes, Sam froze before a bookstore window. There in the display, a slim volume, Cartas desde el mar, Letters from the Sea. Anonymous missives of love and loss, illustrated with charcoal waves. "It's mine," she breathed, pressing her palm to the glass. Inside we learned the truth. Her father, responding to that long-ago letter, had compiled their correspondence, not just hers, but others he'd collected over years of his own exile. A publisher had stumbled on it, seen the universal ache. Sam's words, raw and unfiltered, anchored the heart. Pleas for presence, forgiveness for absence, the quiet revelation of her queerness as both wound and wing. "You did this," I said, awed as she clutched the book, tears smudging the ink. "You reached out and look." Sage hugged her fierce. "My girl's a writer now. Who knew?" But the real unexpected unfolded back home, under the cottage's fairy lights. Sam had slipped away after dinner, claiming a headache, but returned with the Fiat's keys jangling. "One last drive," she said, eyes sparkling mischief. Sage begged off. "You two go, I've got canvases calling." Leaving us to the night roads, the peninsula a velvet dark pricked by lighthouse beams. We climbed to the overlook, the same cliff's edge where it all ignited, parking with the engine idling against the chill. The sea whispered below, phosphorescent in the moon's glow, and Sam turned to me, book in lap. "This is for you," she said, opening to a marked page, her letter but annotated in her looping script. "Alex, you taught me to steer through the fear. Now steer with me?" My breath caught. "Marry me." Not a ring, but the question hung vast as the horizon. I laughed through tears, 35 and stunned, the American expat who'd sworn off forever after one too many goodbyes. "Yes," I whispered, pulling her close, our kiss salt-tinged and sure. No grand gestures, just us, the Fiat's warmth, the stars wheeling overhead. We told Sage at breakfast, the kitchen steamy with cafe and churros. Her reaction? A beat of silence, then a whoop that rattled the tiles. "About damn time." She pulled us into a flower-dusted embrace, but her eyes held depths, pride laced with the ache of letting go. "Just promise me grandkids someday. Or at least a dog that doesn't chase my brushes." Laughter bubbled, but later alone she confided. "I was scared, Alex, of losing her to you. But seeing you together, it's like watching her fly." Humanistic grace, that acknowledging the pain without letting it define. The village tested us still. Word of the compromiso spread like Mistral winds, drawing raised brows at mass. A curt nod from Donna Maria. But allies emerged. The taberna owner who slipped us free vermouth, a young barista with her own girlfriend's tattoo peeking from her sleeve. Sam and I planned small. A civil ceremony in spring, on the beach with paella and surat on the speakers, Sage officiating with vows she'd paint into permanence. Winter deepened, but our warmth held. One stormy afternoon, as rain lashed the windows, we three gathered in Sage's studio. The air thick with turpentine and possibility. Sam sketched wedding motifs, interlocked fiats against crashing waves, while I mocked up invites on my tablet. Sage worked her canvas, a triptych emerging. Fracture, fall, fusion. "For the show next year," she said. The American Dream Spanish edition. Betrayal had been the catalyst, conflict the forge. Now in the quiet forge of days we emerged tempered, deeper, truer. Sam's father even visited, tentative, a silver-haired echo of her waves, arriving by train with apologies wrapped in books. They walked the cliffs together, mending in murmurs, while Sage and I watched from the patio, wine in hand. "You saved us," she said one night, clinking glasses. "All of us." I shook my head. "Nah. We saved each other." As spring bloomed, almond trees frothing pink, the sea turning jewel blue, we drove south, the Fiat purring like a promise kept. Sam at the wheel, hand in mine, Sage's laughter from the back. The road curved endless, but for once I didn't fear the drop. Love, we'd learned, was the guardrail. Steady, unyielding, guiding us home. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after. No tidy bows on our scars. But it was human. Messy, profound, a lesbian love story etched in salt and stone, where betrayal birthed belonging, and the drive never truly ended. We just kept going together.